I think this season could end up being a special one for Michigan football. There's reasons why, but there's also reasons why I have trepidation. We're also going to take a trip down memory lane and kind of pull all of these things together and explain why that's important on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Holt, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. We are going to discuss what Michigan needs and what could hold Michigan back. It's kind of a preface to tomorrow's show with Clayton Sayfie. We're going to kind of talk about what Michigan needs to do, but what could also hold Michigan back. And then I took a trip down memory lane myself today, rewatching some of the Ohio State games of the last few years. And I want to discuss in segment 2 about what made those teams special and how Michigan can kind of reclaim some of that type of juju. And then finally, we're just going to troll Ohio State for a little bit because why not? So that's going to be the plan. Thank you to all of our first, making us your first listen. Thank you so much to all of you out there who are everydayers as well. We do appreciate you. Let's get right into it. Let's get into what Michigan, I think Michigan is kind of poised to have a pretty good season this year, but there is something that can hold Michigan back. And to me, it's relatively simple. So I want to start off by saying that the thing that I think is that makes this team potentially good is because it looks very similar to the blueprint that Michigan followed in 2021, right? Like, will it be the same as the climb? No, it won't. But at the same time, you're going to have I would say at worst, competent quarterback play. Even if it's freshman Bryce Underwood, if it's senior veteran, somewhat injured Mikey Keene, I think you're going to have competent quarterback play. You're going to have a competent offensive coordinator. One of the things that I got from taking a trip down memory lane, and we'll kind of get to more of that later, was just how, even though like Cade McNamara wasn't like throwing the ball a ton against Ohio State, he still, like, at one point they had 19 throws and it felt like he had thrown the ball for 40 times. Like, it felt like he was just out there slinging it, right? Because there were a lot of first down throws. There were a lot of moments where it just felt like Michigan was a pass first team. Now it did run the ball constantly, obviously. I think we're going to see kind of that similar type of identity, even with, two coordinators removed, different head coach, all of those different things. I still think that you're going to end up seeing a Michigan team that runs the ball more often than not, but throws downfield. I think that is what's going to really help. I think that they're going to be a very good team up front, number 2. I know there was a lot of people out there. I seem to be the only person out there that is within the Michigan media that says, I feel like the offensive line is going to be fine. Is it going to be great like the 2021 team had the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line? I don't know if they're going to be that, of course. That's I would say anyone saying that now would probably be in some kind of delusional projection. But I certainly think that they're going to be pretty good. And you know what? I was on with, it was just Cole Kubelik, but I was on the Colin Mack show this morning down in Alabama. And Cole Kubelik said the same thing. He's like, I think that they're going to be good up front on the offensive line. I know that there's a lot of people that want to look at what this team is and say, I don't know that they're going to be that. And Zuri wants to join the show. It's raining and it's dark outside and it's a scary, scary evening for a puppy. So here she comes. But I think that there is, and this is the danger. If you're watching, if you're listening, I have to give you the play-by-play. She's trying to block my access to the microphone because she wants all of the petting and she wants to put her face up next to mine. But I think the offensive line is going to end up being pretty good. And then on top of it, I think the defense is going to be it's going to be that type of defense that we've seen the last several years. And I think that it has a chance of starting out stronger than the defense that we saw last year, because even though it's a new coordinator, it was a new coordinator. I mean, sorry, I got this backwards. Even though it was the same difference, having these coordinator switches did definitely play something of a role a little bit, right? Like Minter was able to hit the ground running a little bit more than Wink Martindale, weirdly enough. But I do think that you're going to have a situation where these guys on defense know more about what their job is, what their role is supposed to be, compared to what we saw from the group last year. I think he also had a learning curve a bit to kind of get things kind of going. And I think that you're going to see that work out for Michigan on the defensive side a lot better. It's kind of funny because I feel like the Michigan media and fans think the offensive line is going to be terrible. And then you've got people like Cole Kubelik, who is on the Joe Moore Award board, by the way, who thinks that it's going to be pretty good. You've got the national media who also thinks the defense is going to take a massive step back. And the local media mostly saying, probably not. Probably going to be maybe as good, perhaps even better. And I know there's people that would say, how could it be better? I urge you to look from 21 to 22 when people said, okay, that was cute. The defense was really good in 2021, but then they lost David Ojabo and Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Ross and Vincent Gray and some others. How could they be better? And then they managed to act, and Brad Hawkins. I forgot Brad Hawkins was on the 2021 team. And Dax Hill, how could they be better? And then they ended up being better the next year. So I think that you'll have just where it's one of those things. It's kind of like, I love to, as if you're a longtime watcher or listener, I love to make references to the 2004 Detroit Pistons. I think it's going to be a defense led by just the team effort more than the stars, right? Like you see it in Iowa all the time, but because Michigan's got more name cachet, I don't think that they get that type of they get that type of recognition in the same way. So I think that you're going to be able to do a lot of the things that you saw Michigan do in 2021 and 2022, maybe closer to 2022 offensively, not quite 2023. Because I would say that Bryce Underwood is probably closer to that 2022 JJ McCarthy than he is just being Cade McNamara, who hadn't really had many. He had only thrown 2 interceptions going into that Ohio State game. So I think that is, you can count that there's probably going to be some moments where Underwood will throw some picks and things like that, because he's going to see defenses like he's never seen before. There's going to be different things that happen. Nonetheless, I feel good about saying that I think Michigan's going to be a 9, 10, 11, maybe even 12 win team. What would keep them on the low end of that? I think it's certainly possible that they could go. I don't think it's plausible, but it's possible that they go 8-4. I don't think it's possible that they go 7-5, as a lot of the rivals want to believe. But what I do think would hold Michigan back is if it is a road team that looks closer to 2005 through 2020 Michigan, right? Like very few Michigan teams that were just incredible on the road. You even saw like the 2011 Michigan team lost to a equal Michigan State team and then ended up losing to an Iowa team that had no business losing to on the road. And then you could say the same thing. 2016 Michigan lost to a Iowa team that had no business losing to on the road, and then lost to Ohio State in part because of what happened in that Iowa game. So I think that if this Michigan team can at least be a solid road team, because that's the thing, they've got so many road games. We've talked about the schedule being a home away, home away, home away, home away, away, home. That's a big deal. We've become accustomed to seeing Michigan playing better on the road in recent memory, because starting in 2021, they went on the road at Wisconsin and then Nebraska and did the types of things that past Michigan teams would not have been able to do. So they need to be able to have that resilience. And I feel like with the culture that has been built, I think that you're going to see some really good things from this group in that light. So that's why I am bullish on this team. Now, rewatching the Big Ten Network Game in 60 broadcast of the 2021 and 2022 Ohio State games here on this rainy Wednesday, that elicited some thoughts, some things that I didn't necessarily remember. let's go down memory lane a little bit. Let's talk about those games and the significance before we get into trolling Ohio State. We're going to do that here in just a moment. But before we do, you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all of my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can use that to track all of your accounts all in one place, your investments and everything. So you can just stop managing your money and start building wealth. I can tell you what, when I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on food delivery. Well, guess what? I'm still spending a lot on food delivery. I'm just spending a little bit less. So I budget smarter and I save more. And the great thing is, instead of juggling multiple apps, you can now use Monarch to check all your finances, track spending, and even plan on long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com and you will get 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for 50% off of your first year. Half off. That's right. Took a little while to get going today, hence the late night show. I kind of had something percolating in the old mind grate. And then eventually we got to the point where we decided to pull the trigger and do it. So part of that was obviously just waking up early to be on Cole and Mac. And then had another show to do immediately afterwards to talk about Jake Garcia. And then Locked On College Football, if you want to check that out, with Spencer McLaughlin. Did a segment there. And then just the rainy day blues, hard time, just kind of, how it goes. But that led to a perfect opportunity because I was texting back and forth with Clayton Safey. And then I was scrolling Twitter, looking for something to write about. And you see the Blue by 90 a video where they posted yesterday of the end of the 2021 game. And you hear the Pump It Up song. It's kind of funny because that again he should get more credit for this. Joel Honigford is the one who found that song, and it entered pretty much the entire college football lexicon, stadium in stadium experience, and I think even some pro football. I think I've heard it there too. And it was something that was, if I'm not mistaken, was discovered by Joel Honigford. Essentially, I mean, like, he's the one who kind of got that going. Because he introduced it to DJ Array, and then it became the anthem of that 2021 win. It's kind of funny when you haven't seen a game in a couple of years, right? Like, where you, because I should finish the thought before I move on. So seeing that Blue by 90 thing, I said, I'm going to rewatch that 2021 game. I was up in the press box for it, wasn't down on the field. Makes it so I don't have the same type of remembrance. The memories are kind of just different, right? Because I'm accustomed more so to being on the field. When I'm on the field, I feel like I can remember every play, every drive. And that's not really the case in the few games I've been in the press box, the 6 games in 2020 and the 2 in 2021. So it's interesting rewatching that game because even though there's certain things I remember, like I remember seeing that Hassan Haskins first run where he barrels forward for like 7 yards. And I remember having a feeling of like, Michigan might be able to do this right away. And I had that feeling in advance just watching Ohio State warm up. And I probably would not have watched them warm up if I was down on the field, but you just could see that they just did not have that type of energy. So there were certain things there, but I thought that one of the things was that Michigan kind of came out slinging. And one of the things that was different that game and in 2022 is you saw a lot of first down passes, right? Because that was a long complaint of Michigan fans. It's run, pass, run, pass. That was kind of just how things were. Like, we're going to run it, and then we're going to pass it. And in that game, you saw Michigan certainly being like, we're going to pass right away. A lot more levels to it, right? Like, Cade was throwing. Cade was a heck of a lot better. I mean, obviously that year he was pretty good for Michigan for the most part. People wanted JJ, but Cade was more than serviceable. He was more than a game manager. He made some really great throws actually downfield. The Cornelius Johnson throw, he had the pass interference to Roman Wilson that if it wasn't interfered with, probably would have been a catch. He had several throws that I thought were really good, but there were a lot more levels, right? We didn't see that last year. This past year, we saw mostly just quick underneath, slow developing intermediate sometimes, and horizontal. Like it was a lot of horizontal game. If we were to flashback to the show reacting to the first game against Fresno State, we were talking again with the Silicon Valley lexicon of we want to see more of this and not this. Again, for the listeners, using the types of car doors from the show Silicon Valley to elucidate on what we wanted the pass game to be. And we wanted to see more vertical, and it was a lot more horizontal, and it didn't really get that much further off, right? Michigan had last year the worst yards per attempt of any team in all of college football. So I think that seeing just remember that was co-offensive coordinator Sharon Moore in a subservient role in 2021, and then kind of taking the show and running with it in 2022 with Matt Weiss more so handling the red zone. But I think that that is what Chip Lindsey is going to kind of bring to the table. And I think it's going to be a little bit more varied like it was in the previous years, right? The offense, obviously, 2022 and 2023, a lot of the times it didn't really look like a high-octane passing offense, in large part because Michigan got big leads early and then was able to, take the foot off the gas. But I think that you're going to see kind of more of what we saw J.J. McCarthy against Ohio State, those deep passes, because I think that that's the benefit when you have a Bryce Underwood. Because JJ had an arm, yes. He had much like JJ, Bryce can also run the football and take off and all of those things. But I think that he's just that much more of an athletic talent that I cannot foresee them just saying, like, let's constrict him completely. I think being able to play within the confines of an offense certainly will help Bryce, right? Like that's, especially in year one. I think by year 3, you just kind of say, okay, we know what he can do, and then we can just use that as the mold. Whereas I'd look at this year and I think that you're going to look at it kind of in a similar vein. This is why I'm bringing these games up. The similar vein, the idea of they're going to, he needs to be able to do things within the strictures and conventions of this offense, right? So I think it'll be really interesting. I mean, granted, Chip Lindsey says like we build our offense around players rather than what I want to do. So there will still be that, but it's going to be a little bit more constrained now. It is kind of amazing to watch those games and look at some of those turning points, because there were points in both games where it kind of felt like Ohio State was rolling, especially in the 2022 game, right? Like the turning point for Michigan there was, they had really both teams. Ohio State's drive got the ball deep in Michigan territory straight away. They got the ball in Michigan territory, I believe, to begin that drive, and they're driving even further. And then they have the holding penalty mixed up with the G. Scott unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and that backed them up. And after that, they just kind of weren't the same. It was like they were waiting for the balloon to deflate, and it did ultimately, right? And I think that like there were a couple mentions by Gus and Joel about how tight Ohio State was playing 2022 in particular. And I think that you saw that in the last 2 years. Like I thought they were a little bit freer in 2023, but in last year you could feel the tightness, and I think that is going to play dividends down the road for Michigan. So I think that it's instructive to kind of rewatch, even though, again, lots of new coaching staff, lots of new players, still a lot of players that we're going to see again this year. Like, we saw Rayshawn Benny quite a bit. We saw Rod Moore quite a bit, like these, even though we didn't necessarily see them in game, you get to see Joe El-Hadi and Greg Crippen on the sidelines, stuff like that. So I don't think it's a completely new thing. Anyway, let's troll Ohio State a little bit. I think that'll be fun. Let's do that here in just a moment. All right, there's still a lot of message board stuff lately on both the Maize and Blue Review and the message board, the Den, as well as the Fort on the Wolverine, there are threads about Brohio posting on 11 Warriors about do not expect, warning the Buckeye fans, do not expect the hammer that you have been sold. Do not expect the Big Ten to do anything. The matter is closed. And again, like I believe that to be true. The Big Ten's not going to add anything. The fever dream is not going to be a thing that they want us to believe here, and that it's not that they've been sold a bowl of goods essentially. I don't think that's the idiom. Oh wow. So a bill of goods. Why did I say bowl of goods? They've been sold a bill of goods. So with that in mind, I just want to kind of note that like it's going to continue to be loud and annoying, right? And just again, like I'm scrolling Twitter for work, looking for like recruiting things. Just did a recruit tweet out like when his commitment date's going to be. Was there a new top 5 listed? New visits, anything like that. That's how you find a lot of stuff. Like the Mason Graham getting booed by Cleveland Browns fans, which the kids, right? Now, granted, it seemed like it was kind of set up that way. It was a lighthearted moment. I'm not going to slam it, but it is kind of like shows you that you can't be at least not a successful Wolverine playing for the NFL franchise in Cleveland in particular. I feel like Cincinnati is at least a little bit divorced from Buckeye fandom because of the University of Cincinnati and all of that. It feels a little bit like the kids that rebelled, when I'm scrolling, I'm seeing a bunch of things that are just like, that say the most ridiculous things, right? Like about JJ McCarthy, like there was, people were playing around with with a bunch of the Iran stuff and saying about, anything would be intercepted, any kind of munitions, and saw like Ohio State fans trying to turn that and make that into a JJ McCarthy thing, even though JJ was not like exactly a turnover machine at all. He never turned the ball over against Ohio State. He, I think, only had 7 interceptions in his career. He had a grand total of 4 that at that point. Going into the Ohio State game in 2023, 3 against Bowling Green and 1 against Maryland. And they just try to turn it into something like, it's one of those things where number one, make sense, right? Of things. Then you have the other thing where it's like, well, he was knowingly cheating He was, it's easy for him to be able to make all these completions when every play. Like, number one, understand what actually happened, right? Like, not like the mental thoughts that they have of the idea that every Michigan player, A, was complicit in the advanced scouting scheme. Number 2, that they therefore knew every single play off the top of their heads outside of film study, right? Because remember, the whole point, and this I credit Steve Dace for making this point to me, the whole point of studying film is so that you can know what the opponent is running. That's the whole point. So that when you're lined up against someone else, you can be like, I know what that is. I recognize this because this is how they do things, right? Like it's, and that sign stealing is legal too. But Connor, as I've said before, was working more so 95-ish% for the defensive side of the ball for Michigan. So like they don't have their talking points in order. But the reason I bring all this up is because it's all, and just to remind you, because things are they're going to get louder and they're going to get louder. And even when the NCAA decision comes down, it's going to get louder. And I just want to remind you that the reason why with all of this is because they cannot cope with the idea that they have lost to Michigan 4 straight games. I have never seen a national champion talk less about their national championship in the offseason afterwards, or the excitement of the season, or any, following it up. Maybe we can do it again. Let's look at the schedule. The only things I see from most Buckeye fans online is complaining about Michigan. That's the majority of it. It's astounding. And it's all because, as Kalel Mulling said, after the skirmish following this last edition of the game, some people need to learn how to lose well. Ohio State fans are, I'm not all of them. I don't want to paint with a broad brush, make a blanket statement, but a large portion of them, the vocal ones online, they do not know how to lose at all. That's why you see the personal attacks against reporters, right? Like if you are making personal attacks at any reporter for any of your rival teams, then you've lost the plot, number one. And you see reporters doing the same thing. That just shows that you do not know how to lose well, right? Maybe it's because Michigan fans and, of course, media got accustomed to losing to Ohio State for a while. There was not that level of vitriol. There was not this, I need to figure out how I can try to make this personally assassinate this person or character assassinate this person. You see all kinds of absurdity, and it's all because they were sold. It's my birthright as an Ohio State fan to never suffer a loss to Michigan, let alone 1, 2, 3, or 4. And you would think a lot of these narratives would have been put to bed, but they couldn't be because they don't know how to lose well, right? They coming out in 2023 after Connor was gone, the whole thing, because they felt like we're going to go and we're going to win it. They said, the game is going to prove whether the sign stealing, the advanced scouting, all of that stuff made the biggest difference. And if Michigan wins, then we'll shut up about it forever. Not only did Michigan win, Michigan went on to beat Alabama and Washington. Well, Iowa, Alabama, and Washington without Connor Stalions, right? I mean, they beat Penn State without Connor Stalions or Jim Harbaugh. They beat Ohio State without Connor Stalions or Jim Harbaugh. You'd think that would have been enough for them to say, okay. But they can't. They couldn't. Credit to Zach Smith, who actually noted after this last year, let's just shut up about this. I mean, clearly it's not that. All right, that's going to do it for us today. We are going to be back on Thursday with Clayton Safey, and we're just going to talk some ball. Dudes talking ball. So thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you again on Thursday. Peace.